It was just coming into December, and I was completely alone and terrified. Let me take you back to the start of the story, where things were about to kick off, but had not quite got there just yet. I had this massive passion for being outdoors. Out in the wilderness, being in nature was my muse. I lived in the UK and did not have the money to go travelling abroad. I could not even afford to go to Ireland, let alone anywhere else in the world, to my dismay. So, driving around the UK itself was my happiness. Music turned down, pulled over in a lay-by, looking at hotspots near to my location. Nothing was really coming up. I wanted to explore places that people had been to before. But now, having done quite a lot of that, I was looking for more remote areas in the hopes I would find something that is beautiful, but nobody else may have found just yet. Now, there was a large section of woodland, a 20-minute drive from where I had parked, that nobody had left reviews on. Google Maps did not even have any location I could click on about it. So I found a new place to go. To be a little bit more precise, it was up the north of England. It was coming to around midday when I arrived, and even though the weather had told me it was going to be raining, thankfully it was partly cloudy. Things were looking up. I had to park the car outside a local pub in an exceedingly small town and then hike my way to this spot. And then I can go hiking around and find more potentially undiscovered things. The town looked peaceful. You know, that small town vibe where everyone knows everyone, and no one's business stays to themselves for too long. The hike towards my destination had taken around half an hour of my time, and meant walking through a local farm that allowed people to walk on through, and up some muddy hills. I felt energized as I reached my destination with only the clothes on my back and my phone's mobile data to get me through a route I had obviously planned out for myself. Now, I had no idea if I could walk the route I planned, but I was happy to find out. As I walked through what looked like to be a trail, I kind of thought that people had already passed through this section of woodland. But I felt so good being able to just breathe in that fresh air. As you can tell, I am quite a positive person. As the walk went on though, things did start to take a bleaker turn for myself. The partly cloudy sky turned overcast that looked dark and opaque, and within minutes had started to rain quite heavily. Only having the woodland to help cover me, I found myself soaked to the bone in a very rapid time. Of course, it was winter. No trees would be any kind of protection. What had made it worse was that I had not noticed the life on my battery show very low, and as it beeped to finally say to charge it, I had one long hard look on my phone to remember the route back, and stupidly carried on a little longer. I was telling myself that if I was to circle up and around this large hill I was staring at, then I would come back to this small village and drive away content. Now, this would not be a scary story if nothing else happened. So let me get right to the juicy details. Because for me, it was petrifying. But looking back to this memory that helped many years ago, I can talk about it without any problems. It was dark. I had walked up the long hill that turned out to be more slippery than what I thought it had looked like. Full of confidence, I came across a small cave. I was filled with adrenaline, excitement, and the will to be curious to have a little look. Now, when I say dark, it was in that blue light zone, where I could still somewhat see, but as the minutes ticked on by, it grew darker much quicker. So, I told myself that even though curiosity killed the cat, I shall not be as stupid, and only poke my head in, use it as my excuse to not only dry out slightly, but as to have a little look around. I was not cold by any means, but I was drenched. I stepped into this cave and just stood at the entrance, not having a flashlight to go in deep enough. I grabbed hold of my phone and tried so many times to turn it on, But after a few attempts, I even stopped receiving the phone's logo that popped up when you initially turned it on. So, I stood still, back against the cave wall, as I closed my eyes and pictured the route back home in my head. Then I heard it. A cry. I am not talking about an animal. I am talking a woman's cry, coming from deeper within the cave. It was so loud that it had made me jump ever so slightly and turn my head to look down. Hello? I bravely mustered. The crying continued, as I thought it was getting closer as I stood upright and frigid. The hairs on my neck and arms stood up as I could feel anxiety rush over my body. Hello? Are you okay? But the crying kept getting louder as I thought it was getting closer. I took one step forward and must have hit a loose rock as I stumbled down deeper into the cave. And then the woman's cries came to an abrupt stop. I was petrified in this moment. With my mind telling me to run for my life, whilst my body remained frozen. Everything was silent as the rain continued to pour down. The tension was something I have never felt in my life, as a loud scream sent me into the strongest panic of fright I have ever felt. I jumped, fell over, scrambled back to my feet and ran for it. I ran as fast as I could. In that moment I ran so much I had not thought about what direction I needed to go in. Like a deer surrounded by a pack of wolves, I was thinking only one thing, and that was to run to safety. Sadly, this did not end my night. As I had run so much, I was now completely and utterly lost. On the good side, I stopped hearing the woman cry, but now I didn't know where to go or what to do. I was hearing all sorts of noises in the night, sounds I was not accustomed to. I was in a state of fight or flight as I dropped myself down next to a tree and battled with my inner self to get myself out of this situation. One deep breath after another, I slowly got back to my feet, and as I turned around the tree, I was positive I saw something move between the trees. Do not ask me how I noticed something, as it was pitch black. But I was positive. I hid back behind the tree as I stood and told myself it must be all in my head. One more large deep breath and I walked somewhat back in the direction I knew I had come from. That was the way back to my car. I was positive. Dread was still something I felt as I continued my walk back. Even when I started to hear crunching of dead leaves, twigs and branches being snapped and the sense of that something or someone was following me. I wanted to look back. I also wanted to run for my life. But something else told me to just walk and ignore her. After around what seemed like an eternity and walking through stingy nettles and getting my legs all cut up, I found myself seeing a small village and feeling the biggest sense of relief I have ever felt in my life. I will admit, as soon as I saw the small village, I ran for it. I ran and ran as fast as my legs could go. I even felt going down the muddy hill, but I did not care. I had a change of clothes in the boot of my car, and after sitting in the driver's seat, engine on, doors locked, I knew in that moment I was done with exploring any newer places. I did not know if there really was a woman in that cave, and I have no idea what or if someone was following me back out of the woodland. But I am so happy I get to share this story. Stay safe out there, because you never know what may be in your local woods.